Hi guys, today we're going to be chatting about how I paid off $190,000 in student loan debt in 2.5 years and how you can use the same tips and tricks to do the same for your debt, no matter the size and type. So the first thing that you're going to need is a budget, and that's simply because you need to know how much income you're getting and how many expenses you have, and then the difference of that is how much extra you can put towards debt. Now there are tons of ways to budget. You can budget on paper for free. You can use apps, you can use templates. I have an Etsy template, and I also budget every month if you need some guidance or just like to see what other people do with their money. Before you start making payments on your debt, you also need to have an emergency fund in place, and that prevents you from incurring extra debt if something unexpected were to come up during your debt payoff journey. I have an entire video about saving for emergency fund, so I'll link that for you guys. If you're gonna be pursuing your debt payoff journey, then I recommend you have at least 1 month of emergency fund available, and that is because you don't want to waste valuable time and money saving up for a huge emergency fund when that money could be better put towards paying off debt and lowering your payment amount and the amount that you paid towards interest. Of course, this is going to be entirely dependent on your risk tolerance, so definitely keep that in mind. You want to strike a balance wherever possible. For example, during my debt-free journey, I started off with a $1,000 emergency fund, and that might sound familiar because it's something that Dave Ramsey suggests, and in the beginning of my debt-free journey I did follow a lot of his teachings, but once I was a little bit more established in my debt-free journey, I decided to increase my emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses. And then once that was set, I started repaying my debt heavily. In order to pay off debt quickly, you're gonna need extra money, and one of the ways to do that is to free up the income or money that you already have. One way to do that is to evaluate your budget and get rid of things that you don't need or that are too expensive. You can go and find a cheaper version of that thing. Additionally, you want to avoid picking up new expenses or new reoccurring bills. So during my debt-free journey, I did all of these 3 things. So first, I moved to a lower cost of living area, so that decreased all of my expenses significantly. And then secondly, just because of the person that I am, I try to look for the lowest cost for most things, provided it's not like affecting the quality, of course, but definitely try to look for lower price internet, try to lower your electricity bill, things like that. Another thing that I did when I wanted to really jumpstart, well, it wasn't a jumpstart, it was more like I was close to the finish line and I wanted to get there quicker. So I went on a year-long no-buy in the last year. So that meant I didn't spend any money on clothes, makeup, hair care, or shoes for an entire year, and that helped me pay off my debt quicker. Also, I didn't make any large or expensive purchases, so I kept all the things that I had, even though they were less than ideal. Like for instance, I've mentioned multiple times that for the longest time I drove a very old car. So my car was, I think by the time I got rid of it, which was early this year, it was 13 years old. So I had my car during my entire debt-free journey and then up until several years after, because I was trying to build wealth and still am. But in order to jumpstart that and keep that going, I stayed in my old car. So these are things that you can think about when you're on your debt-free journey. You are going to have to make some sacrifices, but in the end, it's all worth it. Another way to get more money is, of course, to make more money. So for me, I try to stick to things that are immediately available and within my reach. Yes, you can start a business, but starting a business and getting it to be profitable takes years. So, if you're trying to get things done quickly, then it's best to just work with what you already have. So for instance, more than likely you have a current job, so you have to look within your job to see if you can pick up extra work, pick up extra shifts, work longer, etc. Anything that can get you money quickly. Additionally, you can get a second job in something that you're already familiar with. So your current employment field, or you can get a easy to come by job such as, Instacart, working at Amazon, something like that. Just anything to like increase your income. And then one of my favorite ways to increase income is just to sell things that I already have. And most people can do this readily with no issues because we all more than likely have more than we have. So more than we need. So you can always sell something and get a little bit of extra cash and put that towards your debt. And another simple way to make extra money is to get some passive income. So the easiest passive income to get is, of course, from interest on money that you have in your bank account. So of course your emergency fund should be in a high yield bank account, and all money that is not being immediately used but needed in the future. And you can use the interest from that to put towards your debt. Yes, the interest rates aren't particularly high now, and say you make like $10, that's still $10 less of debt that you can have. So that's another way. Additionally, things like cash back, if you get money from using your credit card or using Rakuten, etc., use all of that money to put towards your debt. When it comes to actually paying off debt, the fastest way to do that is the debt avalanche method. And the reason why it is the fastest is because it factors in interest. So because you're paying off the highest interest rate debt first, you're not accumulating as much interest, therefore you have less debt to pay in the end and you can pay it off faster. So how this works is you're going to arrange all your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and that is the order that you're going to pay them off in. You're going to keep on paying your monthly payments for all your debt, of course, and then tackle the highest interest rate debt. So for that debt, you're going to pay the minimum amount, of course, then you're going to put any extra money that you have towards just that debt. Once that debt is paid off, you're going to move on to the second highest interest rate. You're going to take the minimum payment from the first highest interest rate debt that you've already paid off, plus the minimum payment for the second highest interest rate debt. And then you're going to pay that off and then keep on working down the ladder of your debt. If you get an incentive or a interest rate deduction for signing up for auto pay, then definitely do it. Any amount, no matter how small, is helpful when it comes to your debt-free journey. In my case, my student loan provider offered a 0.25% interest rate deduction for signing up for auto pay, so I made sure to do that for that reason. For whatever debt that you're working on, you want to pay it as often as possible. And that is because in a lot of loans and debt that is available for consumers, the interest accrues daily. So every day that your balance exists, then you're gaining more interest on it. So the more often you pay it, the less interest is accrued, and then the less you pay overall, so the faster you can pay it off. So in my case, I used to get paid bi-weekly. So every time I would get paid, I would make a payment towards my student loans. And of course, this is like extra money, of course. And additionally, anytime I got like any sort of extra money in general, whether it be $5, $10, no matter the size, I would put that money towards the debt that I was working on. So from what I've seen, there usually isn't like a minimum amount required. So I'm sure in some cases you can probably even put $1 towards the debt. Either way, it all adds up, and I suggest you do that as much as you can. One, so that you're always making progress, and two, of course, you can get rid of your debt faster. Now, this particular tip isn't applicable now because of the pause on student loan debt interest as part of the pandemic relief program. But in the future, when things go back to normal, it will apply as it did in the past. So if your student loans are in deferment, then I suggest that you pay the interest that is accruing during that time if you can. This prevents your loan from ballooning to some exorbitant amount. And I'm sure you've heard of people who borrowed $10,000 in debt and then somehow ended up with like $30,000 in debt. And that is because the interest keeps on getting added to the principal cycle and increasing as time goes on if you don't make any payments at all, or if you don't make sufficient payments to get it paid off quickly. So that is why it's beneficial to pay the interest when it's in deferment. Now, during undergrad, I didn't do this. I didn't have a reliable job. There were points when I did have a job and I wish I had done this, but regardless, when I did become financially savvy in grad school, I did do this because during grad school, I also paid my way through grad school because by that time I had the job effectively that I have now, as in, the career path. So I was able to make those payments, but then I also had to pay tuition. So by paying the interest on the loans as I was going through school, I kept my student loan balances from increasing during that time. Now, how to find out how much interest is accruing on your loans? That can be found on the loan service provider's website. So I know for mine, there was a calculator where you could calculate the daily interest accrued, and then from that I extrapolated the monthly interest. So definitely check with your student loan provider to see how much interest you're accruing and then make the payments as such. While you're on your debt-free journey, you want to make sure that you're tracking your progress so that you can know how far you've come or if you need to make adjustments. This also has another effect depending on the type of person you are. If you're individuals, then it helps to see how far you've come and how much further you have to go. It can also keep you motivated to keep going. To track your debt payments, you can do this manually, of course, but I prefer using a tool that can do all of this for me because it's easier. The one that I ended up using, or I found the best during my debt-free journey, was from a website called OnDebtIt. And basically you can put in all of your loans. If you have multiple loans, this is super helpful. It will arrange it in a number of ways. So you can arrange it into the avalanche method, which is the highest interest rate, to lowest interest rate and pay it off as such, which is the method that I recommend. You can also arrange it into the debt snowball way. That is what Dave Ramsey suggests. And there are other hybrid versions, but you get to see which method will lead to you paying it off the faster and which method saves you the most amount of interest. So that's valuable information, and you can get all of that for free with the OnDebtIt. And you can also put in your payments as you make them, so you can keep track of it that way. And of course, it also tells you based on how you change things when your debt-free date is going to be. And I found that very helpful because when I started off, I think my debt-free journey, based on what I initially put in, was going to take me over 3 years. And by making adjustments and putting in extra money as I got it, I was able to get it down to 2.5 years. So it's very helpful to keep track of your journey. Now, in order for all of this to work and for you to be paid off, you have to have some sort of motivation to keep going. And that's especially important if you have a lot of debt and you know that it's going to be taking you years. Like a year is a very long time to be doing the same thing over and over again. So you're going to need to find motivation. Now, of course, this looks different for everyone, but I would suggest that you think about the why. That's usually how you stay motivated to do or to accomplish any goal. Of course, sometimes it's not enough, but think about why you want to be debt free. Now, for me, of course, I wanted to build wealth. That was the key driver in me becoming debt free, because I knew that with 6 figures of student loan debt, like that was just not going to be possible in the time that I wanted it. I was accruing at one point like $1,000 or almost $1,000 in interest every month, and that was just like a no for me. So think about the why and keep on going back to that in the moments when you're feeling unmotivated, feeling like you want to be done with this. Like that is what's going to get you to the finish line. That's what worked for me. Additionally, being on a debt-free journey can be lonely. I know that lots of people say that as well, because in real life, people don't really talk about money or what they're doing or what they're going through or whether they're even paying off their debt at all. Like people seem to be okay with having debt and doing other financial things that aren't in their best interest. So in order to get over that loneliness, I turned to the internet. So Of course, YouTube is one of the places that I went to during my debt-free journey. There are a ton of people on here paying off debt, and I find that it's helpful to see what other people are doing for motivational purposes, whether they're doing well, whether they're doing bad. There's always something to be learned, so that's an option. There are also forums if you're into those. I know that's like a, I don't know, 90s thing, although Reddit is pretty popular and it's, you know, the 2000s, but something like that is an option. So anything that you can think of. Blogs are also one. Just places and people that have similar thoughts about debt or doing the same thing as you is helpful. I know if you live in a bigger city, you can probably find a meetup group that's like into finances or something, but yes, any of those options will more than likely be helpful for you to stay motivated. If you'd like to see how I progressed and what I did during my student loan debt-free journey, I have documented essentially all the numbers for those 2.5 years, and I will link them for you as well. If you're on a debt-free journey or already debt-free, let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.